Beautiful people. Welcome in for episode 17 of the Homie Love Hour with me, your host, Joe Buck. Now, I'm super excited. I know I say this every episode, but every episode is a new guest. So I'm equally as excited, if not more so, than I have been for every other guest. Now, this person and I have been talking over social media, and they have been gracious enough to come on to this little slice of podcast that we're growing over here, this community, all the way from the other side of the country. Give it up for Heather, the host of Hot Mess Espresso. Hey,
That
how
was
we
quite the
doing?
intro.
You know, it's not often I get to do intros with guests and really tout them up. Some people are like, hey, keep it simple, 2 words, and we'll get right into it. But, got to give people the time to, give them their flowers and let them know they're appreciated.
Well,
So,
I appreciate that.
well, thank you for coming on. How's your week going?
It's going good. And also for context, like we've all had episode 17s. Trust me.
Yeah.
That's why I continue to do this because we've all had episode ones, we've all had episode 17s. I don't know what episode I'm on, but we've all had those. It's 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 just a thing.
Yeah. How's the weather been over there? Are you kind of a little bit hot?
I don't understand what it is about. So I'm in Western New York. Like I grew up in like northern central Western New York my entire life. I
Right.
don't know why with us being so close to Canada, it is so goddamn humid, but I'm over it. Like I decided to get bangs at the beginning of summer and then went these are just going to look like absolute trash for the remainder of the I walked outside to let my dog out
Uh-huh.
and I just immediately started sweating. I'm like, I'm in the Everglades. Like, this is bullshit. I'm so far north. This should not be a thing. But apparently. So it's been hot. It's been humid. I'm miserable. But I'm also a fall girly that would literally live the rest of my life in Alaska if I could. So, you summer people are probably thrilled. I am not. So I hope you're happy.
As a person who lived in Alaska during the summers are beautiful, but the mosquitoes are the worst. Like,
Yeah.
there's an ongoing joke that Alaska's state bird is the mosquito because they get so they get so big and they will bite
God.
you through your clothing. And they also swarm you. So when I was living there, I was working at a resort and I would have to catch the resort shuttle from the resort to employee housing, and I would have to wear like a full net over my face, and they would still bite me through my jeans, long sleeve shirts. They didn't care.
God.
And it'd be like 8 or 10 of them, and you hear them when they're going by, and it was miserable.
What in the Jumanji is that bullshit?
That's dude. That's what I'm saying. It's like,
Like, that is real life Jumanji. Who got the game out?
yeah, it's like who rolled the seven, and
Yeah,
why did you do this? Why'd you let the mosquitoes out?
literally. Like, because that's literally what it sounds like is those giant mosquitoes.
It's pretty bad, and
Absolutely not.
yeah, I'd have to like bathe in bug spray before I would put my clothes on because you can't spray it on your clothes; it'll just ruin them. So it's like, I don't know, for some people who wear sunblock, it's like that where you're constantly having to reapply it so they don't get you.
So I'd
But
have to do both. Got it.
dude, I just started wearing sunblock like when I started getting more tattooed.
Mm,
And dude, it saves my life up here. Granted, I'm 9,000 feet closer to the sun than most people. So when it's a sunny day, it feels like you're getting jumped by the sun.
no, thank you.
No, it's like everything is in an oven and you're just getting blasted the entire time. And there's no reprieve unless you're under the trees.
Absolutely not.
Then it's like you go in the woods to try to get out of the direct sunlight, and then there's just mosquitoes everywhere. Like, yeah, you fucked up and came to the wrong hood now.
Honestly, though.
So now that we got our weeks out of the way, so the name Hot Mess Espresso, where did that come from? Was it like a saying, or were you just like, you know what, I kind of like this?
So Hot Mess Espresso has actually kind of been like my personal brand for like the last 10 years or so. It was my Instagram handle for literally ever. I was a complete and absolute train wreck of a human being. And I had an obsession with coffee, especially Americanos, which, if you don't know, it's just espresso and water. And everyone would be like, oh, Hot Mess Express. And I love a good pun. I love a good dad joke. I love a good play on words. So I was like, oh, Hot Mess Espresso. And it just clicked. Like every time I would try to change my Instagram handle to like my name or something, I would get so much like crap from people. They'd be like, no, change it back, change it back. I think I've changed it like maybe 4 times. And within 72 hours, I was changing it back. So when I started the podcast, everyone was like, you got to call it Hot Mess Espresso. And I was like, I don't want to do that because like it drives me nuts when people call it espresso. So and
Mhm.
I'm like, I just don't want to be dealing with that. Like, I spent my entire life with a maiden name that you couldn't spell nor pronounce. So I was like, I don't want to add something else to my life. Like, I got married, got a last name that is wildly misspelled, but is never mispronounced. And I was like, we're getting somewhere, kids. And then I got divorced, and I was like, well, I'm not going back to my maiden name. So fuck it. We're sticking with Harrington. But it just I was trying to come up with a name, like nothing was clicking. ChatGPT was useless. I'm just like, I don't know what to like do with this because I don't want it to sound like super like anytime I was looking up mental health stuff, it sounded really like namaste and like yoga. And I'm like, that's not me. Like if you get me on a yoga mat for more than 15 minutes, it's a miracle. So I could not figure it out. And then my one buddy um shout out to Dan was like literally just randomly texted me and he's like, I had a dream that your logo was a coffee cup, like a cappuccino coffee cup, and in the smoke and in the latte art was Hot Mess Espresso. And I was like, fuck, we gotta go with that then because that's the universe is like reaching out through one of my friends. So it became Hot Mess Espresso, and then we did the logo. And the logo we couldn't figure out the latte art, but I don't know if you can really see it. It is on my arm now because I hit my 250 Spotify followers, and I'm a nut job. But yep, this be the logo. So and it's stuck ever since, and it doesn't get mispronounced as much. Thank you, Sabrina Carpenter, for dropping espresso. So more and more people are like getting their shit together, but unlike me on the pod. But it's worked, and it's catchy, and people are sitting there like, I love that, like where did it come from? And it makes people look at it because honestly 9 times out of 10 you have to have something catchy and like a play on words. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's just how that got started.
Nice. And what would you say is like been your biggest inspiration that made you want to start the podcast and stick with that name?
So that's actually a good question. What started it was, I feel like I've answered like a variation of this question a few times, but also like the way you said it made me think for a second. Um, so the pod was just kind of a get with the times thing. I took about a 3-year break. I had a blog from 2018 to I think my last post was March of 2020.
Mhm.
It was called Diaries of a Borderline. I don't think you can find it anymore because I sure as hell can't find it. So, which was annoying because that was all my research for the first season of Hot Mess Espresso.
Mhm.
So, Diaries of a Borderline was the blog that I had started because I had been diagnosed with borderline the year prior, and I was like kind of going through the different therapies and group therapy and really figuring out what borderline was. And as I was figuring out what borderline was, I was realizing how villainized borderline is because it's in with the cluster B personality disorders, which, if anybody knows anything about cluster B, it also is in with antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, and histrionic personality disorder. And what do narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder have? A whole bunch of prolific 70s and 80s serial killers. So you get roped into that, and people think you are absolutely off your rocker. And while we are, it's, rooted in a lot of trauma and a lot of abandonment. And it's actually like really sad when you look at it. So I just wanted to humanize it because I was sick and tired of people being like, oh, well, Jeffrey Dahmer had it. And it's like, yeah, I don't have body parts in my fridge. Like I'm witchy as fuck, but like I kind of draw the line at body parts in my fridge. Thank you. But so it was just a way of also me processing everything, but I wanted to get it out there. And it was mildly successful at the time. And then obviously COVID hit, and it fell off, and my one buddy Justin, my best friend, was like, you got to get on podcasts, you got to get on podcasts. because the man has more faith in his pinky toe than I do in my entire body and myself. He must, I mean, he saw something because now we're in over 17 countries, which is wild. But he was just like, you got to get on podcasting because podcasting really took off after COVID, or like during COVID, basically. And I was just like, nope, nope, nope. And then in 2023, I was in LA with him and his wife, who is also another one of my dear close friends, and Dan, who I'd mentioned earlier, um, was living with them. And we were just all kind of talking. And I was like, can you send me mic recommendations? And he's like, you going to start the podcast? And I was like, yeah, yeah, we are. It was literally a split second decision like that. And within 2 weeks, I had all the equipment and just started yapping in my basement and slowly figured out how to like edit and work with, audio and blah, blah, blah. And it's just literally gone from there. And I will probably always stick with the name Hot Mess Espresso because it's just me. It's my brand. It's who I am as a person. So yeah, it's just, that was such a long winded answer, but here we are.
No, I feel like I enjoy a good long-winded answer because it doesn't leave any sort of room for interpretation. It's like, hey,
Right.
here's the answer, here's all of the answer. Take what you will from this information, but you can't misconstrue it in any way. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, like I don't know. I feel like when I was super heavy on Instagram before, I was changing my name at least like once a month, once
You
every two
do
months.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I when I made the account, my personal account, I was like, I don't know. Originally, it was just gonna be for nature photography.
Nice.
So I was like, oh, I'm like, I kind of really enjoy horror movies. So I was like, huh, what about like I also really enjoy a good pun and alliterations. So for some reason I saw a video and they were like, yeah, nature is neat. So I was like, okay, nature is neat. What if I call it nature? And I was like, what about the nature feature? And I was like, no, that sounds stupid. And then I was like, what if I just take really obscure photos of things and like call it the cryptid files? And I was like, no, because then people are going to be looking for cryptids. And
Yeah.
then I ended up, ending up with my name, and it's what I've used for comedy. And I was like, if I'm gonna do more comedy, I might as well just stick with this name. And it's been very beneficial. And there's times where I've thought about changing it to other things because like I'll
Yeah.
see people with much more creative Instagram handles, and I'm like, and even the same thing with the podcast.
It's so hard to like not compare 24/7 when you're like, oh, I should have thought of that. But honestly, I love what your podcast is called because that's what caught my attention.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I've debated changing it a few times,
I don't change
and
it.
literally just yesterday I was talking to someone about it, and they're like, when I'm having a good time and partying, and people are like, what's your podcast called? And I'm like, ah, yeah, the Homie Love Hour. And then when I'm being much more serious and trying to
Mhm.
have people on the show, and they're like, cool, what's your podcast called? Let me give it a listen. And I'm like,
I mean, I have a mental health podcast called Hot Mess Espresso, if that makes you feel any better. Like, it just sounds like absolute chaos. And I'm like, it is.
yeah, and it's like when I explain to people the name and why I chose the name, and it started off as a joke, and I was just like, you know what? This is a place for people to come together, and I want the homies to love one another. And, this is where they do it, and we're able to establish a community.
Exactly.
Why not? And, it's like I've been making an active effort to move past a lot of that, like, toxic masculinity bullshit. So I'm like, you know what? I do love the homies, male or female.
Yeah,
I love the homies, and you know what? Fuck it. Like, it is what
exactly.
it is. And kind of just like
Exactly.
kept it going since. But there are times where I'm just like, I don't want to reach out to someone and be like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? And they just listen to the name. And they're like, actually, no, no, I don't. I think that's the day I'll be devastated. But you know what? If that person isn't cool with it, then they're not a person who should come on the podcast, anyways.
Exactly. And that's like the thing. I think, especially with us both being podcasters, you have to find your people because I definitely went through a stage where I was taking literally anyone and it didn't make sense for my podcast. I just needed to get content out there. And now
Mhm.
that I can be a little more picky, I guess, I definitely will only have people on that I can like super duper vibe with and stuff like that. And it's like, it's okay to be picky. It's okay that not everybody that wants to be on your pod is for you. It's okay that, if someone's going to be like, oh, I'd love to come on. What is it? Oh, it's the Homie Love Hour. No, thanks. Well, then you weren't coming on for what the podcast is actually about. You were just coming on to hear yourself talk. So
Yeah.
thank you for like not wasting my time with a prep call. Like, move on. And it's hard with that kind of rejection sometimes because you can just be like, oh, it wasn't good enough. No, it's not. And that's okay because there's other people that, will be like knocking your door down to get on. And you're going to get to that point. And it's so much fun when that's a thing, when people are like, no, I would absolutely like love to be on. Like, let me show you all the ways in which I would like to be on. And it's like, oh, okay. And it makes those people that are like, no, like so much, it balances that out. So,
I appreciate that. That's very kind, and it's like hearing that every so often reminds you why you do this and
mhm.
why you put yourself out there. Because like I talked about this at the end of the last episode. It's like you never know what this could mean to someone.
Yeah, it's
You
crazy.
know, you're in 13 countries. Like that's a huge accomplishment. And I listened to your episodes, and
Oh,
the second I think the second you responded to my message, I was like, okay, like I want to learn more about this person. And I feel as though I've gotten to learn a lot about you, but it's in a very genuine and raw kind of way. A lot of people like to offer a polished version of themselves. And a lot of times it comes off as disingenuous or like,
mhm.
hey, you're selling a product and this version of you is that product.
Yeah.
So with that, have you found it to become easier as you've done more and more episodes to open up about not only like your mental health struggles, but to kind of talk about mental health as a whole?
I think it's actually gotten a little bit harder, which you would think because I'm yapping about it all the time that it would be easier. It actually has become a little harder because now I have people like fully invested. And, there's still that stigma of like, oh, it's okay to not be okay, but for only a certain amount of time. And then everyone's going to get sick of hearing about it. But I actually got called out a few times from people that were messaging me and they're like, hey, I still love what you do. I still love the podcast, but like, I miss that you don't do solo episodes and that you don't really, you'll talk about things, but then you'll gloss over it. And I'm just thinking like, a lot of my mental health struggles involved other people. And I didn't want to like super, because like, obviously, people that have been listening from Jump, I had my now ex-husband on the pod for 3 episodes talking about our marriage and really diving into that. And now we're divorced and there's still a lot of like mutual, I wouldn't say love, but like, like having love for somebody versus being in love with somebody kind of thing. Cause
Mhm.
we fell out of love with each other long before we got a divorce. But like there's still a lot of mutual respect. There's still a lot of mutual like trust there and stuff like that. And the last thing I wanted was for me to kind of unpack on the pod and it bite me in the ass later. So I was very like selective. And there's some days where I'm like, oh, I wish people actually knew who he was and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's just me being like emotional about something because at the end of the day, he's still one of, my really good friends and I'll always have his back and all of that. So that was just like an example of something that I'm like currently going through where I couldn't really dive into it. And like the, loss in my family that we had spoken about off camera, like
Mhm.
I don't want to publicize that because I don't want to take away from the immediate family and stuff like that and make that about me. So I dealt with that behind closed doors, and I'm still dealing with that behind closed doors. And, that was hard to not let people in on that. So it becomes harder because as people get more and more invested in your life and you really start, like, I guess, buying into what you're selling on being vulnerable and stuff like that, you're starting to realize that there's lines and things that you can't publicly talk about. So it actually makes it harder because it's like, I'm not okay. And I'm not okay for reasons I can't really go over. Like, I can gloss over it. Like, you know, big loss in my family. Can I go over the details? No, because I don't want to disrespect the immediate family and I also don't want to take away from them. So, it's not my place to talk about it. It's not my platform to talk about it, that kind of thing. So it becomes more and more difficult because you want to share with your people. You want to share with your followers what's going on, but you can't because you're starting to realize there's lines. So, it becomes very much kind of like a PR nightmare in a way.
Mhm.
Not because, the usual PR nightmare when, a celebrity says something super off the cuff they should have never said. Although, we all know that they're not really apologetic for it. But it's more of a PR nightmare where it's like, I don't want my interpersonal relationships blowing up in my face because of this. So you have to be careful. But at the same time, I talked about my disability on my last solo episode, and that was incredibly hard to do. But I'm so glad that it's out there now because it's not some big, like, thing. It was almost like a weight off my shoulders in a way to be like, hey, so, like, hey, this happened, blah, blah, blah. But also, it was like, what kind of feedback am I going to get back? Are people going to look at me differently? Are people going to, like, judge me? And it's like, fuck it if they do. Those aren't my people. Like we were talking about earlier, those aren't the people for me. So, and it's just something else I want to normalize that, like, people with disabilities can, we're not, just in a wheelchair in a corner of the house. Like, we have opinions, we have lives, we have things that we, want to be able to accomplish. So it's definitely harder as life goes on to kind of figure out what can be public and what can't be. My I will probably never super publicize a relationship ever again because, I publicized my marriage and then I had to publicize my divorce, and that was not fun. When you publicize something, everybody's got an opinion and a half about it, and I'm just over here like, I'm just trying to get along with him today, so, like, we're just not. But, people know that I'm, like, dating somebody, but they will not know personal details ever, ever again. And I kind of like it that way because my life is so public that I'm kind of like fucking Smeagol with the ring where I'm like, like, so it definitely, it's more difficult, but it's also more gratifying when you do finally, like, open up and people are like, this is exactly what, like, I wanted from you. Like, I'm so glad that you're finally, like, talking about things, blah, 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 blah. So it's a little bit of a catch 22. But
Mhm.
if you're, yeah, people that are podcasting, if you find that it's more difficult to be super open about things, that's okay because you're going through it and you need to process it off the mic before you can talk about it on the mic because the last thing you want is for the internet's forever kind of thing. So, like, you want to kind of not be super emotionally run. Like, that's where you want logic to take over.
Mhm.
So it's definitely it's a process. But yeah, I would say it's much harder now than it was. Probably because I have more people invested in this shit. If it was three people, like, listening in, I'd be like, well, fuck this, blah blah blah. I can't do that anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I got people watching me. And not only people watching me, but bigger names watching me. And it's like, okay, I gotta be a little more professional. I could be, like, professionally unhinged.
Yeah.
It's a line I'm finding.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, podcasting, especially something as vulnerable as talking about mental health, it's a lot like being in a friendship or in a relationship.
Mhm.
Like, you cannot just trauma dump onto your listeners,
Nope.
or you can't just be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be super open about everything. There have to be boundaries,
Yep.
just like in any functional, healthy relationship.
Yeah,
It's like as you're ready to talk about these things, you will talk about them.
exactly.
But, oftentimes there are people looking to capitalize on very traumatic situations, whether they're involved or not involved, for the name of clicks, or
Exactly.
they're doing something with the intent on monetizing it or something along those lines. And, it's like if that's what you're trying to do, whatever, chase the bag. But
Mm,
for someone who is building their brand around being genuine and being the truest version of themselves, I think it makes the absolute most sense to take the same approach as you and say, hey, I will talk about this when I'm ready to talk about this.
yeah.
I
And people
will,
know I will. People know I
yeah,
will literally dump eventually. I just got to process it. And thankfully, I have the most amazing listeners that understand that. And they're like, hey, when you're ready, when you're ready.
uh
I'm just saying, like, I miss you being a little more open about things. Like, I'm not asking you to put your entire life online, but, like, we'd like to see a little more of you. And I'm like, okay, like, I love that you appreciate me enough to give me that feedback. You know, it's huge.
yeah, I had someone tell me, I was like, man, like I'm doing weeks or I'm doing episodes bi-weekly now because I have so much going on in my personal life between, work, farmers markets, comedy shows, volunteering and all these things. So I'm like, I don't want to put something out there that isn't genuine to me. And, I don't want to just send a bunch of stuff to my producer and be like, yeah, just do something with it,
Hmm.
and kind of be dismissive or not be as attentive to what's going out as I want to be. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's a big
okay,
one.
yeah, like bi-weekly episodes I think are fine with me. And once I have more time, we'll go back to weekly episodes or we'll figure it out. And a really good friend of mine was like, hey, I just want to tell you, I've been listening in for the past few days, and I got to tell you, like, I love what I'm hearing. I just wish I got more. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I appreciate that, but there has to be limits to what I can put out there, for my sake and for your sake as a listener.
Hmm.
It's like what's your favorite movie series? Or do you have like a favorite genre of movie?
Or
Think of have you seen The Terrifier?
yeah, I haven't seen the third one yet, but I have seen the first two.
Now think of The Terrifier and how you felt when you saw the first one. Then you saw the second one and you're like, wow, okay, this is great. Now I want to see the third one and imagine it's cheaper budget, rush storyline. There's, incongruities everywhere.
Yeah.
You would come away from it being like, bro, this feels like an incomplete product.
That's how I felt about the Saw series. Like the Saw series is my favorite movie franchise
Mhm.
until the fourth movie. I feel like after the fourth movie, they cut their special effects budget and they started using CGI. And I feel like it just took away from the like gruesomeness of it. Like
Mm.
it felt fake. Also, like how many twists and turns are we gonna have here? I finally saw the 10th movie. Less than impressed. But that was the thing. Like, and so that's exactly what you're talking about. You get to that fourth movie because you're like, the first three were mind blowing and this was absolutely insane. And like, oh my God. And you get to the fourth movie and you're like, really? Like the premise of the fourth movie at the end was like great if they'd all worked together as a team, like they, would be bleeding out, on the floor or
Yeah,
whatever. Like after that, it just started being like, okay, how many people are working with him? This is ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean? So it's, yeah, I totally get what you mean with that because it was the same. And you have to do what's sustainable for you. I did seasons for a really long time. I'm doing weekly episodes now. There are days where it is 2 in the morning on a Wednesday and I have a podcast due in 3 hours. And I'm like sitting there, like finally putting it on because I just couldn't mentally do it that week. And it's not necessarily sustainable. So I'm learning how to batch episodes and then take a month off. So I'm not losing my ever loving mind. But, you have to do what's sustainable for you. If biweekly is what works for you, that's what works for you. Like you
yeah,
cannot burn yourself out or all of a sudden homie love hour is going to be no more because you're going to be like fuck all this shit. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, and that's so true. But it's like that with everything,
Mm.
and that was actually something I had to learn with the personal relationships in my life,
Yes.
where, I used to be a big time all or nothing kind of person. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, hey, this is a pretty unsustainable way to go through life, because either it's like I'm not going to open up at all to you, or I want to know everything about you. And, just like what we talked about with your listeners, now you're trying to force a person to open up and tell you everything when they're not ready to, or it's just two people trauma dumping on one another, and it kind of
Yeah.
becomes a competition. But then also you're taking on that person's trauma and that person's stress, and sometimes it's not reciprocated,
Yeah.
where they're telling you all these horrible things and you're like, "Oh my God." And then when you're trying to tell them about your day, they're just like, I don't have the bandwidth for that right now. You keep it over there with you, Chief."
Yeah. It's yep. And I literally been so incredibly lucky. Like you were saying, it used to be an all or nothing. I've gotten so incredibly lucky with friends that like when they need to trauma dump, they're like, "Hey, are you in the mind space? Are you in the headspace right now?" And I'm like, there's times where I'm not, but because they asked, I'm like, you know what? I got a little more room for this.
Yeah.
Go
Got
off.
got a smidge just for you,
Yeah,
Chief. Like,
literally, because you're asking if I have the bandwidth, and like I don't want my friends that are going to listen to this feel bad and be like, "Well, do you really?" Because like if I really don't, I'm going to be like, "No, I'm having a fucking day. Like I can't." But a couple of my friends will be like, "Do you have it in you today? I need to like vent." And I'm like, "Vent away, my love. Like do you need popcorn? Do you need a pickaxe? Like what are we doing here?"
yeah.
Like am I taking the plates off my car? What like let's go.
Yeah.
Cuz I'm also that friend. I'm that friend that's like I am the Marianne to 90% of my friends. I'm like, "Nah, we're going to go." So, and if you don't know that reference, I'm going to need you to look up the Chicks Goodbye Earl and you'll understand. So,
Is
it's one of those.
they used to be the Dixie Chicks, right? And then they renamed
Yeah,
to the Chicks.
they I don't remember why they dumped the Dixie name. I it may have to do with something that's been unearthed to be no longer appropriate to use.
Yes.
So that's okay. Yeah, that's what it was. And they were like, nope.
I actually remember now. They were the Dixie Chicks, and then it was during the Bush administration. They
Yeah,
came
that
out,
whole thing went down. That
and
whole thing.
everybody turned on them, and they were like, "How dare you question the president?" And they were like, "Hey, we're being honest. We're being Americans. We are speaking about what is important to us,
Mm-hmm.
which is, what's going on is wrong." And they got blackballed out of country music, and
Yeah,
then they came back and was like, we want to get back into it, but we realize this name
it's not.
carries a lot
Yeah.
of hate and, discrimination, so we are going to drop it. And then those same people were like, "Ha, liberal idiots, you just the chicks now. You guys aren't even true to yourselves." And just like, what we've been talking about, like with the podcast and
Mhm.
being a genuine version of yourself, means sometimes changing your name or being like, "Hey, I'm not this person anymore. I cannot make music as that person anymore.
Right.
I'm not that brand. I'm not that individual. I've grown past that." So in order to grow past that and to let people know, sometimes it means repackaging yourself.
Exactly. You pivoting.
Yeah.
Like Ross on the couch pivoting.
Yeah, pivot, pivot. I can't pivot.
That's literally my mental like state 9 times out of 10. With pivot, I'm like, yep, that's me. Like again, we have to do it again,
It's
and then I'm Matthew Perry, shut up, shut up, shut up.
Yeah. That always makes me think of Matthew Perry peeking his head around the couch and he's like, "I can't pivot anymore."
That's literally how my brain feels sometimes when I'm like, okay, now we're gonna do this. My brain's just like, no,
No, no, no, we're not.
no more pivoting, please.
It's one of those things where this conversation comes full circle, because I was just talking to someone before I left work about the ability to pivot and to be able recognize when something that you're doing isn't working and understanding like, okay, this isn't working right now, but there is potential for it to work versus this isn't working and I need to reapproach how I'm doing this if I want this to work. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like understanding those differences.
You have to, like, if I was doing the same things that I was doing in season 1, I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I just wouldn't. Like, God, every time someone's like, "So what episode should I start on?" I'm like, "Season 5, I would prefer season 6 because that's when I figured out was sort of what I was doing, but I also, like, didn't really know what I was doing." I think I'd say, like, the past 15 to 20 episodes is when I've really, like, found my groove. But, like, they're builder episodes. That's what I call them. They're builder episodes.
Yeah.
They created me into the podcaster I am today. And there's actually several guests that I'm gonna reach out for from like seasons 2 and 3 and be like, "Hey, you wanna come back on now that I like don't sound like a robot?" But that's the thing. Like every time you're like, "This is the best episode ever," there's gonna be another best episode ever. And also, do me the biggest favor and don't ever look back at your first 20 episodes because there's going to be something about it where you're like, why the hell did I say that or stumble over that or I did this? Like, you're learning your groove, you're learning what works for you. And it's a learning curve. So anytime you're like, I'm stagnant, go listen to your first episode. And then you're like, never mind, I'm literally the best thing on the mic since sliced bread. Like it's kind of like that. Cause it's like, oh God, I don't sound like that anymore. Yeah, because you've grown, you've pivoted, you've figured out what works, you left what didn't, but you didn't completely like throw it out completely. You just put it on the back burner because maybe that little thing is gonna, because like I did Google Forms for the longest time with all of this shit that I needed my guests to fill out. And then I was like, I don't need to do that. And now I'm like, but a smaller version of that Google form would make my life a little bit easier. So again, I'm bringing things back from the beginning that I didn't necessarily need it then. I need it now because now
Yeah.
I'm, doing more things with it. But yeah, you got to be able to pivot. And this isn't just in podcasting, this is in life. If you refuse to grow, and then you're going to look around and nobody's around you and you're going to be like, "Oh my God, everyone left me." Yeah, because you're the problem. You didn't grow. You didn't take constructive criticism and keep it moving. The amount of men that I've dated that I literally could go straight back to them and they'd be right where I met them, not where I left them, but right where I met them. And it's like, yikes, and also realizing that it's okay to outgrow friendships and stuff like that. Not everybody, they can be a great person. You can absolutely love them as a person, but you can love them from a distance because they're not pushing you or they're not encouraging you to move along in life. So it's just a big, like, I don't know, big piece of advice. You got to be able to keep it moving on all fronts, not even just podcasting, just life in general.
Can I tell you something?
What?
You spitting motherfucking facts. Like,
I'm here for it.
hey, not
It's
like
been some
every
very hard lessons that I've learned in my 20s and like I've relearned in my 30s just on a much gentler scale because I did all the hard learning in my 30 or my 20s and now in my 30s I'm like, okay, that doesn't serve me. That's okay though. That doesn't mean I'm too good for somebody. That doesn't mean that like I think I'm better than someone. It just means that it's no longer working for me right now and I know that I will be held back to let go of several friendships over the last year that killed me to leave them behind, but I skyrocketed on a lot of things without them. And looking back, I'm like, I hope they're doing well. I occasionally check in with our mutuals of like, hey, how are they doing? And I leave it at that because if I reach back out directly, I will be stagnant again. I will not keep it moving. I will have someone in my life that needs me to be where I'm at and not any further because that makes them look bad or them feel guilty that they're not moving forward. Or I've got somebody that only wants to be my friend because of what I do for them or the potential I have for HME to be something huge and they want to come along for the ride, not because they love and support me, but because they want the attached quote unquote, and I say this in the loosest of air quotes, fame that comes with it, and I'm not doing that anymore. Like,
you're
like put your own work in. I'm not dragging people along.
I'm 100% picking up what you're putting down. It's such a dumb term, but I love it so much.
I love it. I'm like, can you pick up the thing that I just put down? Thanks.
But it's like everything you're saying is so true.
Mm-hmm.
I had this group of friends from like my teenage years, and I haven't spoken to any of these people in 15 years, maybe be a little bit longer, and they still talk about me. And recently, like my name came up and I was told about it where these people were like, yeah, like Joe acts like he's too good for us. And I was like, I'm not too good for anybody.
Yeah, literally.
But I can't be that person that I was when I was 16 because I'm not 16 anymore. Like there are bigger things that I'm focused on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go to the mall and go to the food court and walk around and take samples. I don't want to go to Hot Topic and like rearrange where the wallets are. There are so many
That
things
was so fun
where
when we were 16, though.
yeah, it's
That was
it's
a
like the
blast.
the nostalgia of it is always
Yeah,
there.
it's so fun,
You know,
but not in your
I'm
30s.
yeah, it's like I'm unbelievably appreciative to have had those people in my life at that time
Mm-hmm.
because having those friendships were, unbelievably beneficial. And, having those people there did so much for me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always made sure that I reciprocated that, to tell these people, hey, I appreciate you. Hey, thanks for dragging me out of the house. Hey, thanks for inviting me to these places. But at a certain point, they decided I'm good right here. I don't want to move
Mm-hmm.
past this. And for me, I don't ever want to stop bettering myself. I don't ever want to stop growing because, the day you stop learning is the day you die.
Yep.
So if I'm trying to learn and I'm trying to better myself and give back to my community and do all of these things, I can't do that if I'm still going to Hot Topic to mess with the wallets,
Right.
or I'm still walking in circles around the food court to get the free samples,
Exactly.
or I'm still trying to break my same record in Dance Dance Revolution. And it's like a part of me loves that, but that's the 16-year-old in me that is just that he's the kid in me. I'm not
Right.
a child anymore, so I have to move past that. And the love and appreciation for those people is still there.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but I have to appreciate that part of my life while actively moving on.
Exactly. Exactly. Although, side note, can we talk about how Hot Topic feels like a time capsule now? I literally went in there last summer with my ex, and he's like, "Do you want to go on a Hot Topic?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" Like, let's, because it was like Disney on crack there for a minute.
Yeah,
And then I walk in, and I'm looking at all the band tees, and I'm looking at all the like studded belts, and I saw Happy Bunny, and I was like,
they brought it all back.
it is 2006 all over again, and I am fucking here for it. I was so excited, but I'm like, and giggling to myself when you mentioned hitting your record in DDR, because I'm over here like, honey, we don't got the knees for those anymore.
No, oh my God, don't
Man, I can feel
don't
the
miss a
arthritis setting in.
yeah. It's like don't miss a step going downstairs. Oh, it's like
Yeah,
it's like the world just disappeared. You're like I'm going down. I don't know if I'm gonna get up. My dog cannot dial 911. I'm
yeah.
out of luck.
Like, we now have chiropractors and acupuncturists. Like, we can't do that shit anymore.
I know. It's like, oh my God. Sometimes I think the hard part a lot of times is realizing you didn't fully appreciate those moments while you were in them.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what it is to be a kid.
Mhm.
You're a child, you're doing silly things because you're a kid, you don't know any better.
Right.
But to be an adult and still do the same silly things is kind of crazy because like you know better. You got shit you got to do. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Too much Panda Express is gonna trigger your heartburn. You're gonna have
Hmm.
acid reflux. You are not gonna sleep tonight. So why are you getting triple orange chicken? Come on, bro.
Yeah. Well, I saw a quote a while ago that was like, your 30s is the time, your 20s were when You were trying too hard to fit in. Your 30s is when you basically are doing all of the things that you found fun at 13, but like you either weren't allowed to by your parents or like you didn't, you were going through shit as a teenager and you like didn't really have time to fully like invest in it. And I'm
Mm.
like, that's so true. But there's also like a line because you can't literally be 13 anymore and doing 13-year-old things. Like me, I'm literally, and for the video, like I still am rocking the tattoo choker that I was at 13, not literally the same one. But, I'm leaning more into like my alt girl, like that kind of thing because I'm in my 30s and I don't care. And if people think that it's weird that I still love my Chucks and I love my, my metal my band tees and, I go to metal shows and, all of this and I still wear my tattoo choker and, I'm just really leaning into who I've always wanted to be at like as a teenager and who I always knew that I was, they can fuck off because I am me. I am unapologetically me. And I spent the entirety of my 20s trying to fit in, literally recovering from a god awful mental illness. And, just I was in survival mode in my 20s. And now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to we always used to make fun of our parents for like wearing things that we were too old for. And now I'm in that too old category. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I will literally look like Wednesday Addams all day, every day. Like, bite
Oof.
me, and now I get it. So like, I'm sorry, mom and dad, that I made fun of you for wearing shit from the 80s, that I get it now. I am sorry. I still think that the bright color block windbreakers are ugly as hell. I will die on that hill. But like I'm sorry. This is my formal apology to my parents for picking on them for the fact that they never got out of the East with things. I get it now because I'm never getting
Hmm.
out of the damn 90s. My style is 1994 Seattle grunge-ish with a touch of like alt goth. Like I look like I belong in an AFI music video and I'm here for it. Like I don't care. But
You know,
I also am, paying bills and being an adult at the same
right.
time. And I feel like people are missing
Yeah, I feel like people miss out a lot of time where, they think they have to dress according to their lifestyle. And honestly, any given time, my closet looks like four different people just threw their stuff in
that. Yep.
there.
Yep.
Like,
Pretty much.
I have a cowboy hat over here. I was gifted by a buddy of mine. I wear it on occasion when I'm performing, or sometimes I just wear it to go do cowboy shit. I'm not a cowboy. I will never say that I'm a cowboy, but I love country music. I'm wearing a country music hat right now. I have camo, I have flannel. Someone told me that I dressed like the world's biggest third grader one time, and it still hurts my feelings, but I'm just like, I do. I wear plain shirt, plain
Hmm.
shorts, and then some sort of colorful shoes that makes it work.
It's your style.
The only difference between me now and me probably in my 20s is I don't wear cargo shorts and I don't feel a need to make concessions to make other people comfortable.
It's a huge one that you learn in your 30s.
Hmm.
I'm so done making myself small to make other people comfortable. I literally almost didn't go to a show for an artist that I really liked because my ex introduced me to the band, and well, it's Suicide Boys, so are they a band? Are they artists? I don't know how all of
Yeah.
that works, but I almost didn't go because I knew my ex was going to be there and it was his band and it was his artist and he introduced him to me. So like, maybe I shouldn't go and let him go. And I was like, fuck that shit. I couldn't go in October when they were here because he invited me and then he decided to have his best friend go, who I also wasn't allowed to meet basically. And I'm like, fuck this shit. If I run into him, I run into him. Also, this venue's big enough for the two of us. And that was when I really started to be like, what? I'm going to take up space. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be that person again. I'm done like trying to make, and there's obviously a limit. I'm not a dick about it, but do things that you want to do, whether it makes people uncomfortable or not, within reason.
Mhm.
Um, my opinion, this is my opinion for legal reasons, this is my opinion. But you gotta just do the damn thing. Okay. Go see the band. Go to the festival, that you're gonna run into that girl that fucking hates you at. Like, who cares? The only one that's going to be bothered is them. Are you bothered? No. They can
Yeah.
be bothered. Let them. Let them be all like annoyed with the fact that you exist. Like, hey, hi, over here.
So
Whatever.
kind of funny. Speaking of Suicide Boys, I met them in the airport on my birthday a few
Oh
years
shit.
ago. Yeah, I was flying home for my birthday, and they had just done a 420 show in Denver, and they were
No,
going through TSA. One of them accidentally grabbed my backpack, and like I recognized them immediately.
they're not hard to
And
spot.
yeah, yeah, like the like you can't really confuse them with someone else.
Literally no.
So they were
Especially
super
now,
cool.
even more.
Yeah, they were super cool. It was really really early in the morning, and I was like, "Hey man, you grabbed my backpack." And he looked at it and he was like, "Oh shit, like I'm so sorry." I was like, "Hey, also like I'm not trying to like crowd your space or anything, but I was like, we have a mutual friend who is so and so. I listen to you guys' music. I really appreciate it. Like thank you guys for putting out my music. I enjoy it." And he's like, "Ah, cool, cool, cool." He's like, "Hey man, do you want a photo?" And I was like, "No, not
No.
really."
Not this, no.
And he goes, "Cool, man. I did not want to take a photo right now." And I was like,
Yeah,
"Sweet, man."
you almost feel obligated.
Yeah, it's really really interesting, and it kind of every time it puts things in perspective for me because going back to like my teenage years and my 20s, like how many people I came in contact with who have gone on to do such cool things.
Mm-hmm.
And, part of me wants to reach out to them just to be like, "Hey, I see what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing. And I just want to congratulate you." But at the same time, I'm just like, you know what? That time of our lives is gone. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it. There are photos of us together, all that cool stuff. But, you know, I don't really feel a need to offer unwanted or yeah, unwarranted validation to someone, just to
Right.
be like, "Hey, remember me? Like, I like your music." It's like, "Cool, man."
Yeah.
Because like if I'm really want to support this person, I do it by, buying tickets to their shows, streaming their music, watching their videos,
Sharing their shit
buying
out,
merch.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I I I feel like there's so many ways to show people that you appreciate them. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
always have to be like, "Hey, let me back into your life so I can tell you." Because then it seems kind of going back to what we've been talking about, it
Yeah.
seems very disingenuous and like
Yep.
you're only there so that you can say, "I know this person," or "Oh, I knew them before," or "Hey, I'm here. Let me ride your coattails of success, even
Mm-hmm.
though I really don't have anything to offer."
Yep. Pretty much. Gotta it's such a fine line because obviously like you want to support them and like that you're just saying like, hey, love what you're doing, like appreciate it. I'm so proud of you with how far you've come and you're gonna leave it at that. But to them when they're at that level and they've already dealt with a million people that do that and then try to like infiltrate their way in, it's so hard to be like, thanks, dude. Like, and I'm not even at that level yet. But at the same time, I've already kind of dealt with a few people that are just like, oh my God, we should go live together. No, you didn't want anything to do with me before. I know you talk shit about me. And now you want to go live together because you see like my follower count on TikTok or you see the community I'm building and you see the things that I'm doing. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
so it's a really fine line. But again, there's ways to support them fully without being like, oh, hey, I know this person. You share their shit out. You buy their merch. You do the thing. You show up when you need to show up. And that probably means more to them than even just sending that message.
And like I'm a big proponent of supporting the homies, and
Mm-hmm.
like my whole thing is like I support you until you give me a reason not to support you. So it's like for me it is unmitigated, like whatever you're posting I'm liking, I'm sharing, every so often. Like if we follow each other on social media, I might be like, "Yo, like keep this shit up. I'm fucking with this heavy." And it's like, I see people who they just like it or they leave it on red or whatever the case may be. And, to me, like it used to bother me before, but now, because I'm like, you didn't take the time to answer. But now I'm like, bro, like if you saw it and it meant something to you, then that was the whole point of the message to demand that someone stop what they're doing to respond to me at any given moment is obnoxious, but also even more so to be like, no, no, no. Stop and talk to me. Appreciate what I'm doing, but let
Yeah.
me know that you appreciate what I'm doing. It's pretty ridiculous.
I do my best to like messages half the time because
Yeah.
sometimes I just don't have the bandwidth to respond, or like I just feel like it's disingenuous to be like, thank you, I appreciate that so much, because it feels like such a like filler. So I just like it. And, people know me enough to know that if I'm liking it, that's like, hey, I'm acknowledging it. I really appreciate it. Like that means the world to me. But also, like, that's all I got.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the same thing like with my comedy. Like I don't think that I'm funny and I don't tell people that. So they'll be like, "No, no, no, you're funny." It's like genuinely I don't think that I'm funny. I say things and I hope that they're taken a certain way, but if they're not, well, so when people are like, "Hey, I really love what you're doing on stage." Before my response was like, "Go watch a better comedian." But then I'm like, I have to stop doing that
Yeah,
because I'm essentially turning these people off to what it is that I'm doing. That, if I'm making this for them and they love it, who am I to say, no, go do better?
that is such a huge like jump
Yeah.
to do that. It is so hard because I'm like, I'm just like a little podcaster. And it's like, no, no, you're not. No, you're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. You're not that person anymore. You may see yourself as being here, but other people may genuinely be like, okay, she's so much further. And, like I've told you, I set my bar, I'm like, once I get anywhere close to where you are, I will consider myself as making it. And, it's like,
And oh my god.
oh,
See, I don't
it's
feel like I've made it. So it's just like, you're constantly your own worst enemy, but like literally that genuinely means like so much because I don't feel like I've remotely made it at all. I feel like I'm making an impact, but made it? No.
see, but it's like if you think of it like a race, there are a lot of people who sit in the stands
Yep.
and they see you running and they're like, "Oh my God, I wish I could do that."
Mhm.
And then there are people who are always in different stages. There are people
Exactly.
waiting. There are people waiting. There are people way past the point of being able to compete. There are people who are still at the starting blocks, and there are people who are taking those first strides.
Exactly.
So no matter whether you're at the starting line or you're at the finish line, for anyone who isn't where you are, it's a form of success because you've made it further than they ever have.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
so, whether I'm behind you or I'm next to you or I'm ahead of you, if I'm ahead of you, I'm looking at what you're doing saying, damn, I can't wait for you to get to where I am.
And
If
that's
I'm
what
next to you, then
yeah.
it's like we're here. I'm supporting you. I hope you reciprocate it. If not,
Mhm.
well, but for me to be behind you and see what you're working on. And when I say you, it's a general term
Yeah.
for not only you, but other podcasters, other comedians, other people more established in their careers. I'm like, yo, I'm looking at what you're doing and I appreciate the time that you've dedicated to making yourself better and to putting this out there and to making people, you know, want to tune in, to laugh, to cry, to evoke emotion, to look at themselves and say, okay, I need to better myself because I feel as though after listening to this, I'm not at the mark where I should be.
Yeah. And honestly, you're doing everything right when you're doing that because if there's one thing I've learned, it's surround yourself with people that are doing better than you because then you have something to work towards. If you like, obviously, like people that are like where you're at or like a little behind, like, yeah, that makes sense. But like we were talking about, sometimes you outgrow friendships and stuff like that. But you surround yourself with people that are more motivated than you, that are more whatever than you, because then you have something to work towards and not in like an unsustainable, like, I gotta like basically bleed out over here in order to get to point B. But it's just like, okay, they've done it. So that means I can do it. So let's work towards that. And then we'll see where they're at. And, it's a constant, like you said, it's a marathon. It is the longest goddamn marathon, but it's a marathon.
Yeah, it's the rest of
It's
your
a never
life.
ending marathon. It's like the never ending story, but for careers,
Uh, dude, exactly. And it's like, there is room enough for everybody at the finish
literally.
line. And, that's that's something that I also had to learn the hard way is not everyone is going to have the same approach as me.
Hmm.
And there are other people who see this as a competition and they're like, and there was a dude, we used to work together, and he would always come to me for advice. And then I would always hear from people that he only had negative things to say about me. And it would make me like really, really angry. And it
Yeah.
got to the point where I was like, I don't want to be around this dude anymore. And someone heard him talking to someone else about someone else. And they were like, why are you talking about this person so negatively? And he's like, well, they chances are they're doing it about me, so I'm just beating them to the punch. But it put things in perspective to me, or for me to understand that he's just not comfortable with himself.
Hmm.
He's never understood what it's like to have a community or to have people that want to see him succeed. So he feels as though he has to step on the necks of other people to get what he needs and to get to where he wants to be. He doesn't understand that you can work with other people. And even those times where he was vulnerable enough to tell me something or to come to me for advice, he thought he had to counteract that by trying to tear me down to other people. And instead of being angry with him, I was just sad for him because I'm like, bro, there's so much living you have left to do. And after it put things in perspective, and it's very easy to let emotion take over and to look at things from a very egocentric point of view of me, I.
Yeah.
But once you take a step back and look at things from an outside perspective, oftentimes you realize like, holy shit, like I'm wrong, or this person isn't as adjusted as I might be, or maybe this person doesn't even know where to start. You stop, I don't want to say holding people accountable, but you stop holding them to the same degree that you hold yourself.
Exactly. Another big lesson I've learned. You got to stop expecting you out of other people. And it's a lesson I'm still learning and a lesson I'm still getting irritated by, but we're doing it. But yeah,
Hey,
like you were saying, like with the marathon, like just to add to that, a marathon 9 times out of 10, like sometimes there's somebody who wins a marathon, but 9 times out of 10, you're just trying to beat your own time. It's not necessarily a competition. So, like, you have to think of it that way. Like, you do one marathon and okay, we've hit this step. Like, now I got to beat this time. Now I got to beat this level. Now and I guess I can throw it into like video gaming. Like, 9 times out of 10, you're working with other people as a team. It's not necessarily competition. You're just trying to beat the big boss to go to the next big boss. And, from there. So, if you don't get the marathon reference, you'll get the video game reference because,
yeah.
I don't game at all, but I was married to a gamer long enough that I know there's several big bosses involved. And when you beat one big boss, now you got to focus on the next one. So it's like that. I wish people were less, and like I've worked in the beauty industry too, so I get like a double whammy with the competition and the cattiness and this, that, and the third. It's you are your biggest critic, you are your biggest competitor. Do not worry what other people are doing. You can look at them and take it with a grain of salt and be like, oh, I like what they're doing with that. Let's do this. Or I don't like what they're doing. Who cares? You're not doing it. And you just keep it moving. You are what did Megan the Stallion say? Only look, I she drops so much deep shit. It's not even funny. Okay.
Oh,
I love her. People are just like, oh, she's just a rap artist. I'm like, have you listened to her lyrics? Like, her when she dropped Cobra, I was like, "God damn, girl, are you okay?" I know she's not, but, like, that was a huge one for mental health. I was like, "Holy shit." But what'd she say? "Only one of them in competition with is me," and I was like, "Okay, we're sticking to that." Like, I get my little what are you laughing for? She's great, okay?
no, she genuinely is great. It was just like this very deep, introspective
I
moment of
know, and then I
clarity.
gotta
And
throw
it's
some
like, what did Megan Thee Stallion say? And I'm like,
look, I will be a Megan
wasn't
the
expecting
Stallion
it.
stan until my last breath because her lyrics are so fucking deep and poignant, and you're just sitting there like, holy shit. She talks about friendships. She talks about people that just don't want to see her do well. Cobra, especially when she redropped it with Spirit Box. Like, oh my God, like some of those lyrics, I'm just like, holy fuck, girl. Like, you are speaking the most truth I've ever heard in a really long time. So she just, I don't know, she just drops a lot of real shit that is just like, oh, fuck. Like, you don't think you're going to get that out of a rap artist, but you do. You get a lot from her, and it's like, okay, I'm a fan.
Speaking of Megan Thee Stallion and Spirit Box, what's your Mount Rushmore for female artists or female-led bands? So it's a little bit more all-inclusive.
Okay. Courtney LaPlante from Spirit Box. I feel like she's not the first person to really knock down a lot of walls in metal, but she is one that is really showing that it is possible. And it's just kind of like a group of, along with like Lizzie Hale and like Alyssa from Arch Enemy, like that group of women. Kesha, like, look, that girl has fucking been through it and has come out the other side stronger than anybody I've seen with 90% of the shit that she's gone through. You know, Sabrina Carpenter is kind of becoming one of my favorites. And I think because she is just unashamedly, like, just speaking her shit. And oh god, who is my fourth? I feel like, oh, Kelsey Ballerini. Kelsey
Oh,
Ballerini, her EP on her divorce got me through the last year of my marriage and then my divorce. And then I
okay.
thought I met my Chase, and that went up in flames. But, you know, it was like, she just, the way that she was so vulnerable, even when she was getting shit on left and right for getting a divorce because, you know, he wasn't that big of a dick. It wasn't that unhealthy of a marriage, but like, she left because her needs weren't being met. And I felt that. And so yeah, those are my four, which is hilarious because I'm such a metalhead, and three out of four of those are not metal in the least bit. But like, oh, you know what? We'll sprinkle. Oh, fuck, you know what? I need to redo this because all of a sudden I just realized like the women from the past. So Kesha will replace Sabrina Carpenter with Avril Lavigne,
Okay.
and then yeah, Kelsey. So those are Avril Lavigne. Just yeah, there's the women in music are just fucking phenomenal. They just are.
Okay. I get down with that list. And if you had a Mount Rushmore of metal bands, female or male,
Okay,
what
let me see.
what are we looking like here?
My current, we'll just go with my current like four ones that I'm like hella obsessed with lately. Fit for King. I will never
Okay.
not see them live. I've seen them live 6 times. I'm pissed that they're not coming through anytime soon with their newest tour. I may have to make a road trip for that.
Okay.
The Plot and You,
Okay.
Kubla Khan,
Okay.
and who gets number four for me? You know, I gotta go with the classic, Motionless in White.
Hey,
I can't believe
I
I said
like it.
classic, but they've been around since like middle school. There's so many. Bill Murray gets an honorable mention,
Bill
but
Murray.
Bill Murray, I fucking love that dude. I love that band so much. So
Yeah.
there's an absolute million, but I will, I get it.
Sorry, my dog is barking. I'm trying to figure out
Story of
why
my
he's
life,
barking.
like, But no, I don't know. There's too many to name, but we're just gonna go with the ones that are on my current like obsessed playlist. So,
Yeah.
Of Virtue Until I Wake, all those guys, phenomenal.
I was thinking about it when I was walking the dog. Is like, man, what would be like my like hardcore metal like Mount Rushmore?
It's so hard to pick.
For me, it's Acacia Strain.
Ooh,
Just one second. So yeah, Acacia Strain,
mhm,
number one. Like
that's a good one.
I've seen them so many times. They are so good. Vince is such a nice guy. Two, Terror. Same reasons. Scott Vogel always has something
Yep.
positive to say. Like for a dude who's been in the scene for so long, I have been yet to hear someone be like, "Oh, fuck that guy." Like I
Right.
don't have anything positive to say.
Yeah.
Then, man, this band they didn't get as far as I was hoping they would have, but as a very genre specific band, they were a satanic southern hardcore band called Rock Bottom.
I've vaguely heard of them.
They put out like two EPs
Yeah.
so hard. Like even now, it's been I think like their first EP came out in 2009, And to this day, I still listen to the first EP
Hmm.
and I get chills when I hear it because I'm like, oh, this is so good.
Right.
And then number four, man, this is gonna, no, I'm sticking with it. The Beautiful Ones.
I haven't heard of that band.
So they are named after, so one of Prince's bands was Prince and the Beautiful Ones. They were like his backup
Oh, okay.
band. But these dudes were like, we are going to make a band called the Beautiful Ones. And they are the only band I've ever heard make a hardcore love song.
I think Parkway Drive did too. A
Did they?
Deathless
See,
Song.
I used
I'm pretty
to
sure
listen to
that was, yeah.
I don't know, I'll have to check it out. I used to listen to a lot of Parkway Drive, and then
I
I
did
kind
too,
of
and then
just
it fell
like,
off. Yeah. It was just kind of
yeah,
one of those
yeah.
things. Although, side note, did you see that Silverstein and Roy Rodriguez from Dayseeker, who also is on my Mount Rushmore?
Mhm.
I can't believe I forgot about them for half a second. They've been my most listened to artist for 2 years straight, and I'm like, I'm really going through it if that is my favorite artist because I listen to a lot, and then Spotify is like, you've listened to Dayseeker. I'm like, I have a problem. But I look, you can never. I'm seeing Dayseeker next month, and I'm so excited. But
Okay,
along with Colorblind, and I'm so stoked because they're also like a phenomenal band that I've just recently discovered. But yeah, Silverstein and Roy Rodriguez from Dayseeker just dropped a new song today, and it is Chef's Kiss.
I will
Chef's
have
Kiss.
to check it
I will
out.
literally send it to you.
Yeah, please, please do. Then, if I had to do a female Mount Rushmore, whether band or singular
Hmm.
person, Japanese Breakfast. I forgot what band she was in before. Super talented, love her music. Some of it is about breakups, some of it is about loss. But my favorite song by her that I listen to, it's my summertime song. It's called Be Sweet.
I'm gonna have to look this up.
And it's literally just like, it's like, she says the chorus is like, be sweet to me, baby. I want to believe in you. I want to believe in something. I'll send it to you. It's
Yeah, send it
it's
to me.
banger.
Can't wait.
So Japanese
Hmm.
Breakfast, Men I Trust, love her music, love her style. Coco and Claire Claire.
I have not heard of any of these bands. Like, I feel like
It's
I'm about to go down a rabbit hole.
Coco and Claire Claire. It's so good. It very much so reminds me of like SoundCloud, MySpace
Ooh, hell yeah.
music.
Hell yeah.
It's very simple. One sings, one
Oh
raps.
yeah, I love that.
It kind of reminds me of like an art
Hmm.
project that's just so good. And, I'm sure their music is not made for men, but I'm like, hey,
Who
fuck it. Like,
cares?
I'm still bumping it. It
Right?
slaps in the car. Oh, it goes hard in the headphones. And then, of course, Chaperone.
With
Chaperone
growing on me.
is
I did not want her to
it's
grow on me. I was just like, I can't do another one of these artists. Ugh, like it was one of
uh,
those like I can't like the mainstream. But then I unfortunately listened to Pink Pony Club more than 2 times,
yes,
and now I'm hooked. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
I heard Hot to Go at a wedding. And I was like, I don't get it. And then I went back and listened to it and I was like, holy shit. And then I started listening to other songs. And then for me, the sign that I'm really fucking with an artist is if they make it onto my gym playlist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, my honorable mention, I'm really bummed they just broke up, is a hardcore band called Gel.
I think no, I'm thinking of Gore. Never mind. Gel. Yeah.
Yeah, they were so good. I want to say it was a female vocalist, and then I think either their guitarist or bassist was also a young lady, but then their other guitarist did a bunch of really like fucked up shit and like leaked
Of
nudes of
course.
people and stole money and all this weird shit. So they announced they were breaking up. And, dude, talk about like a talented band. Like those two, I strongly dislike when an artist comes out and they are immediately pivotal,
Hmm.
whether comedian or musician or actress, whatever the case may be, where it's like, oh, you're a woman and you're a comedian, you can only talk about your vagina on stage. You can only talk about your
Yeah. Like fuck
ex-boyfriends.
that. Like I'll talk about whatever
Yeah,
I
and
want.
and it's the same thing with
Hmm.
musicians. And I don't know if you ever listen to Gouge Away.
I'm not.
they're from South Florida, and it's a woman-led band, and she's been their vocalist the entire
Mm-hmm.
time. And same thing, they're so good. Sound is constantly evolving, but people always want to shit on her for being true to herself,
Mm-hmm.
but also making such amazing music. And it doesn't make any sense to me because I'm like, if this person is being true to themselves and they're putting out bangers and they're not shitting on anyone, they're not tearing anyone down, they're not
Which is
taking away from other
rare in this
people.
industry.
Yeah, it's like what is the problem?
Yeah.
Like, are you mad that you slid in her DMs and she never responded?
Right.
Or like, are you mad because you want to be her but you don't know how to get there? Like there's
Mm-hmm.
usually something underlying that is the problem
Yeah.
on why you have such a problem with this person. And sometimes it is, some form of like I'm disappointed in myself, but I'm gonna blame this other person.
Exactly.
Or whatever the case may be. But dude, I am always blown away by like what women bring to the table as far as like music, acting,
Especially now.
comedy. Dude, I gotta find this
Amazing.
band. I just started listening to them last night. It's so good. Oh, it's called Witch Club Satan.
Well, sign me up. I've never heard of them, but I'm here
Yes.
for it. Also, if you want another women-led band, Conquer Divide. Yeah,
Okay,
so
bet.
good.
Yeah.
I'm coming
I
up with a
started
mental
listening.
list of shit I'm sending you after we get
Yeah.
off of
Dude,
this.
hey, I'm here
I
for it.
know.
But Witch Club Satan, I started listening to them last night and they only have like I think like 5 music videos, maybe 6. But it's very female empowering imagery in all of their videos. And it's like walking through like a haunted house that's also an art installation. Is all their videos. And they all wear like the corpse paint and wigs. And I'm like, they're putting out a new song in a week. It's called You Wildflower.
Oh my
I'll send
God.
you the clip. It's
I gotta get them on the pod.
so, oh dude, that's what I'm
Like I've
saying.
been
I'm like,
starting to get more and more music artists on the pod, and like it's actually kind of funny because I've decided like I'm not gonna get revenge on any like ex friends, ex whatevers, because I'm just gonna
yeah.
I know who their favorite people are, and I'm just gonna get them on the pod because I'm
hmm
an ass.
Actually, that was going to be one of my questions is what, as you're leaning more into having artists and stuff on your podcast, what guest would you say has been like your favorite? Or, you know what, for the sake of not polarizing things, Mount Rushmore of guests that you've had.
God,
Yeah.
that's a really good one.
hmm
One of my favorite episodes was actually this wasn't an artist. It's gonna literally be the whole thing. Morgan Denicola. She was absolutely phenomenal. I adore her to pieces. Taylor Palmby was also a really, really big one. She's the director of operations of Heart Support, which, if you don't know what Heart Support is, it mixes music, mostly metal music, and mental health together. Jake Lures from August Burns Red started it a few years ago, and it's been so incredible. I've been following them like basically from jump, and having Taylor on was a dream guest thing. And she's just such an incredibly sweet human being on top of it. When I get artists on, I have like my dream artist like list, but also I try to get artists on that I don't really listen to their music because I'm trying not to turn this into like a curated playlist interview like thing. So if I don't really listen to their music, that's when I'm like reaching out. Like I'll listen a little bit. I'll be like, hey, I love like the lyrics and stuff like that. Let's talk mental health. That's kind of how I got Jolly Cypher on from. He's the former vocalist from Until I Wake. Again, incredible human being. But rest of my Mount Rushmore. I'm gonna go all the way back to season 2. Eric Scrippa. I need to have him back. But he was such a phenomenal person that I need to see if he ever got like his ski therapy up and started. But such an incredible human being. We were talking about medication and like whether you need to be on it or not. And he was so open and so vulnerable about his journey that I was just like, oh my God. God. So who would my fourth Mount Rushmore be? There's been so many just like incredible conversations. Like I cannot think of a fourth one. Like those are the three that really like stood out. But then like, you get to that last spot and you're like, there's about 6 or 7 people that I could put on here. So it's just like
hmm
I just gotta like throw a name out. Kevin Palmieri and slash Amy NES. They're both from Next Level University and incredible, incredible people. like just incredible conversations. I have, relationships with them off the pod because, you have some people that like you're on the pod, like you casually follow each other and that's it. Like, no, I have like literal conversations with them here and there. Just incredible human beings. Like all of my
Mhm.
guests have added some form of growth and whatever to HME. So it's so hard to pick a Mount Rushmore, but we're just gonna go with that. And if you weren't on there, like I still love you. I still absolutely adore every second of our episodes. Like, don't hate me. But that was really hard
Yeah.
because I'm like, there's at least like 15 people I could have put on from like jump.
Yeah, don't hate Heather, hate me for making her come up with the
Don't make
list
me
on the
choose.
spot.
That's like picking your favorite child.
And that's so cool that you have that Rolodex of guests to be
Yeah.
like, okay, I've had all these people on. And it's like I think when I was first starting off, I was just like, "Hey, you want to come on? You want
You
to come
have to
on?"
do that.
And all these people were like, "Yeah, sure, of course." But then I wasn't as like confident, or I wasn't as organized as you. So like when you sent me that like Calendly request
It's the best thing
or
that's ever
to fill that
happened.
out,
I don't have to
I'm
talk to
not gonna
people. I
lie.
literally send it. I'm like, schedule at your convenience so I don't have to talk to you. Like, I obviously I yap for a living, but like sometimes it's just like
Yeah,
I don't have time to be like, well, what about this day? Well, no. Schedule it when it works for you. If something doesn't work for you, then get a hold of me and we'll work around that. But yeah, no, the
I'm not
Calendly, best thing ever. Best $10 a month I spent.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that, I was like, "Yo, she's way too highbrow for me. I'm about to just not
You
respond."
need to literally, we need to chit chat off of here and I will get you set up on some very quick admin things that are going to streamline the fuck out of this. Trust me.
Yeah. It's like I feel like for some of the people that I've talked to, not not taking the lead and saying, "Do these dates work for you?" might actually be what turns some people off. And also just being like, "Yeah, let me know what works for you." And then, people got lives to lead.
Yeah,
I don't
people
expect anyone to
forget.
just be like,
Literally, I've had prep calls with people that I'm like, it's all of a sudden I realize 4 months later they never schedule. I'm like, hey, do you still want to like,
"Yeah,
come on? Oh, but you get
yeah,
to a point
it's
where you're like, if they want to be on bad enough, they'll make it work.
yeah." And like, dude, shout out to everyone who's come on the podcast, including
Mm-hmm.
you. Some of my friends are just like, "Hey, I want to do it in person, so
Yeah,
like I will make time to drive up to where you live so we can do this in
yeah.
person." And some people are like, "Hey, I listen. I'm really stoked about this. I love what you're doing. I want to be a part of it. Let me know how I can be a part of it." So, I definitely plan on having more guests in the future, and it's
It
exciting,
is.
to have a platform where I can tell my friends, "Hey, I want you to come on and have a conversation with me, but be yourself." The it doesn't I'm not saying, come on here and tell me every horrible thing that's happened to you, or only tell me the good things, but let's have a conversation. I know there's probably a ring light. You can see mine in my
Yeah,
glasses.
like
There's
everyone
there's a
has
ring light.
lighting. This isn't some natural, like I'm in an area where the lighting is ethereal and everything
Yeah.
like I'm just naturally talking into a microphone and it definitely isn't like, has a bunch of settings that make my voice sound nice.
Mm.
Like we all know that there's alterations, okay? Like get over it.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the
Mhm.
scenes, but you know, taking the time to do this and to talk to me is I'm always unbelievably thankful for every single person. And there are people, every so often I just message them like, "Hey, just want to say thanks again." And it's not because I'm trying to have another conversation. I just want to be like, "Hey, I appreciate you taking the time to be a part of this and to come on to share your story, to share your transformation, to talk about your marathon," because so many people only see the success and they don't see what it takes to get to where you are. And even more so, they don't see how far you think you are from the finish line.
Exactly. And like the thing too is that you can have people back on. Give it like 6 months to a year, have them back on because there may be a topic that comes up that you're like, hey, I really want to talk about this, but like obviously I can't have you on like 4 episodes in a row. And if you really vibe with somebody, it's okay to have them back on because your listeners notice when you really vibe with somebody and they notice when you don't. So
Mhm.
you have those people back on because that'll people will be like, oh my gosh, oh my God, he's back. Like I'm so excited. Like, how do we live part two? Hell yeah, let's go. And it also kind of helps to like refresh some like old episodes because, like, oh, well, if you like liked the episode now, like, you should check out the first episode that they were on. And that kind of it's all marketing and whatever, but it also, like, if it speaks to you and you really vibe with somebody, have them back on. Who cares? Who cares?
Exactly.
Like, that's just how I am. I'm like, okay, we're going to have you back.
Yeah, goddamn right. So before we wrap
Yep.
today's episode, what do you have coming up? What do you have that you're working on right now? This is your time to talk about any and everything that you want without me interrupting.
Okay, if you interrupt, like, it's been fun. So I actually, Hot Mess Espresso is still Hot Mess Espresso. You can find that anywhere that you get your podcasts. You can find me on Instagram, hotmess.espresso, Espresso. You can also find that exact handle on TikTok if you like. I literally like yapping about, they do a lot of carpool karaoke to, not literal karaoke, but like lip syncing to bands. And that's my creative outlet of being unhinged. So it's really fun. You can also follow my personal Instagram, which is chaos of Heather Nicole. And the reason I have now separated personal and business is because I am actually this September going to be co-hosting a second podcast called Friends Without Benefits. You can find that Instagram at Friends Without Benefits. We're still in the baby stages of that. I have two amazing co-hosts that it's going to be the things that I don't really feel like I could talk about on HME. Like, when it comes to like relationships and sex and all of those like crazy, like, it's girls' night out. It's like the group chat got a hold of a mic, and yeah, so it's going to be a good time. It's going to be, we're going to be talking about, women's like self-image issues. And I know we've got an episode that's going to be coming out of, just talking about like the Instagram, like, fitness influencers, and what is actually like helpful for your body and what isn't, because as women we're inundated with everything about how we're not good enough, we're breathing, we're not good enough, that kind of thing. And I know it happens for men too, so I'm not polarizing, like, good lord, but I'm a woman and this is what I'm dealing with. Well, it's very like, so I'm very excited about that. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where we're at. So I'm really excited about the second podcast. I'm really excited to see where HME goes. Hopefully you can catch me on, you know, panels eventually in the next year or so, yapping about mental health and all of that. So we'll see. We're just going for the finish line.
Yeah, goddamn right. So with that being said, we are going to wrap up today's episode. And again, Heather, this has been amazing getting to talk to you. And
Same.
I know we did that preliminary call where, we just kind of got to know one
Hmm.
another, but it's very different going from like essentially like a cold
Yeah.
call to sitting down and, saying, "Hey, how's your life? How's your week?"
Yep.
and being able to discuss everything. And getting to do this shows people's perspectives and kind of gives you, as the listener or the viewer, a chance to see behind the curtain and see, what it's like to run a successful podcast or to have your life on full display for someone. And it's very easy to say, as the consumer, oh, this is what I would do. But as the producer, it's a very, very, very different
It
situation.
really is. It's a lot of work, but it's so worth it and it's so much fun.
Hmm. And the it's kind of interesting because, again, coming full circle, there's so many conversations that I've had recently, even right before when I was leaving work, talking about the marathon and what that means for each person, because we don't get to see where other people are versus where they want to be. We just see where they are from our perspective.
Exactly.
And it's easy to want to be where they are, but it's not always easy to get to where they are. And that's something we need to understand. And we're not always meant to be where someone else is.
Mhm.
So, there's a famous quote that says, comparison is a thief of joy. So we oftentimes give up our ability to look at what we have and appreciate what we have because we're so busy looking at what someone else has without understanding the work and determination that goes into it. And that's something that we should all be thankful for. We're not where we want to be all the time, but we're so much further from where we could.
Exactly.
So don't forget, this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. So no matter
Yes.
where you're at, there's always time to do better and to be better and to get to where you want to be. But don't be so busy focused on what other people are doing that you lose the pace or you lose your footing and you
Yeah.
fall. Because that's how we end up angry. That's how we end up feeling discouraged. That's how we end up giving up on things that are meant for us. So with that, we're going to end today's episode. Again, Heather, Hot Mess Espresso, thank you so much for coming on
Appreciate you.
and being this week's guest. And there's three things we can leave you with from me, your host, Joe Buck, and today's guest, Heather from Hot Mess Espresso. Be good to yourself, be good to the world around you, and remember, above all, we love you, homie. We'll see you next time.